You are on.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning and almost afternoon to all the students and startups who joined this UAE Hackathon session. On behalf of the TDRA team and the organizing team of the UAE Hackathon 5.0, we welcome you all for this virtual session specifically designed for the participants of UAE Hackathon who are very special for us because you are participants today, but tomorrow you will go on to become successful entrepreneurs, innovators, and global impactors, inshallah. So moving on, before we start, we would just like to make this session, by the way, the session will be interactive. I will try my best not to keep this a boring university lecture because I used to not like university lectures that much. So we will try to keep it as interactive and interesting as possible. So to begin with, how many of you are alive and active in the sense you're listening and you're keen? So if you can just raise your hand or drop in a message, just say hi. Okay. Abrar Hussein, thank you for raising your hand. Wonderful. Let's see who else is alive. Thank you, Sultan, Yamin. Good to see a lot of enthusiastic, alive people. Anybody else? Thank you, Sumitra. I don't know what you mean by who. I think you meant hi. So thank you, Noor. Great. So yeah, would request the others to follow suit and either drop in a message. It could be hi, it could be hello, good morning, good afternoon. You could just raise your hands. Just want to know if we have an active audience here. Wonderful. Okay. Great. So thank you for all those who raised hands and for all those who dropped in a message. That shows this session is going to be interesting. So I'm gonna start by welcoming each and every one of you. Abrar Hussein, Kaushik Deka, Muhammad Nihal, Muhammad Nebuhan, Noor Madi, Ubaid Khalifa, Sara Al Naqbi, Sheikh Al Kabi, Sultan Al Hassani, Sumitra Ratish, Yamin, Unnisa Siddiqui, and Yasir Musa. Have I missed out anybody's name? If I've missed out anybody's name, you can let me know right now. And my apologies if I've missed out somebody by mistake. Okay, so looks like we're good to go. For starters, how many of you are university students in the UAE? If you are, then please raise your hand or just say yes in your chat. Okay, we have Abrar, we have Nihal. Thank you, Noor. Anybody else? Okay, great. A lot of hands coming up. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Great. Nice. Anybody who's not a university student here? Maybe a startup, maybe a school student.
We can.
Sorry, got disconnected momentarily. We will be connecting back to the main PC. So I was asking, do we have anybody who's not a university student here? If you're not a university student, um, kindly, if you are not a university student, please raise your hand up or just type in what you do. Are you a school student or you're a working professional? Okay, interesting. Okay, so we have one person. So Yamin and Sumitra, so you're not university students, if you can connect me. I think Yamin is running a startup and Sumitra is also a startup founder or working. Al Shaima. Okay. So you're not a university student as well. Interesting. We love this mix. We want this session to be mixed, and there's so much each of you can offer to each other. So should I just begin? I'll start by sharing my.
Just on opening, we will continue.
Okay, cool. I don't need to put the UAE Hackathon background for my screen.
I will put it from the other side.
Okay, no problem. Okay, guys and girls. So let's start off. And for how many of you is this the first UAE Hackathon? If this is the first hackathon that you're participating, UAE Hackathon, this is the fourth or fifth edition. So if this is your first time, please raise your hands up or just say hi. Okay, interesting. First, very nice. This is my first time also, by the way, interacting with the UAE Hackathon team. It's been amazing so far. So if any of you is joining you for the first time, I'm with you. Okay, good. So we have a decent number of first timers, and for those who've already been part of the UAE Hackathon, you know how cool it is. So, but nevertheless, I will be running through the presentation of the UAE Hackathon to refresh the memories of those who've been part of the UAE Hackathon, and also to update and to enlighten those who are joining for the first time. Yeah. So are you guys ready? And if we can begin, I will start by sharing my screen now. Can all the participants see my screen? If you can see my screen, just raise your hand and or just say yes in the chat. No, you can't see my screen. Okay. Some of you have said no and some of you have said yes, which is confusing. So I'm going to start again. Can you see my screen now? No, it's not visible. Okay, just give me a minute to fix it, please. Bro, can you help me? Why is not share? Screen, yeah. Oh, I've not given access. Oh, now it should come. Okay, now it's visible. Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. Oh, my Batman's. Sorry for my Batman wallpaper. Okay, cool. So now my screen is visible.
Just to present full screen.
Full screen. Okay. Done. I'll begin. Okay. So we now begin with the presentation of the UAE Hackathon, as I mentioned. For those of you who've participated in the hackathon before, this is going to be a refresher. There's some new interesting elements have been added this year that's taken the hackathon to the next level. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, it's going to be quite an interesting journey for you to understand how the UAE Hackathon works so that you can prepare and eventually prepare to become a winner of the UAE Hackathon. So before we start, all the best. Try your best to pay attention. I will try to keep the introduction short and then open the floor for interactions, question and answers, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So welcome to the UAE Hackathon 2022 edition, which is the UAE Hackathon 5.0 edition. The UAE Hackathon is the region, not the countries, but the regions, probably the Middle East and North Africa region's biggest hackathon designed for high school students, university students, and startups. So this is organized by TDRA, the Telecommunications and Digital Government Regulation Authority, supported by the National Program for Happiness and Well-being and the UAE Innovates initiative. So this is the region and the country's biggest hackathon, and a platform for young entrepreneurs, students, startups like you to work on interesting challenges, technology themed challenges, share your startup ideas, and stand a chance to win an exciting cash prize, many of them, and also be mentored post the hackathon as well. So I'm going to be taking you through the entire process that I spoke to you just now about. So the reason behind, or the vision behind, or the inspiration behind the hackathon comes from the leaders, or the blessed leaders of the UAE, starting with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. So as their vision states, our duty is to design the UAE of the future for the next generations, and to involve our people in this mission, just like our founders did. So we invite citizens and residents to join us in shaping the future of the UAE. This is a very powerful message. UAE has always been a future-centric nation. They imagined the future many decades before. So what we see as development in the UAE today was a vision, was a dream that was dreamt decades before, 50, 60 years before. So we are living, the dream, or the vision of the inspiring leaders of the UAE. Specifically in this case, the leaders of the great gentlemen you see on screen, their father's vision, Sheikh Zayed and Sheikh Rashid. So in line with their vision, we invite you to be part of realizing this vision of creating the future generation that's going to create a great impact not only in the UAE but around the world. So both citizens and residents of the UAE are invited for this hackathon to use their creativity, to use their innovation, to use their technological enthusiasm and skills to create a better, brighter, and more interesting future ahead. So about the UAE Hackathon. The UAE Hackathon is considered to be one of the largest competitive events encouraging innovation in the UAE and across the region, as I mentioned to you before. So you should be proud of the fact that you're part of, or you've been selected to be part of, one of the biggest initiatives or hackathons in the region. Number two, it motivates and inspires university and high school students, government employees, entrepreneurs, creative thinkers, and innovators to shape the future by resolving pressing technical challenges that face different government or public entities and organizations in the UAE. This point that I just read to you and that you can see on your screen is, I would say, one of the most interesting USPs of the hackathon. Never before, or it doesn't really happen where in competitions or events, you get to work on real challenges given by government entities. This is what sets the UAE hackathon apart. You get to work with UAE government entities on specific challenges, on specific themes, and you get to apply your creativity, your innovation, your startup ideas for specific real world challenges. Yeah. So that's what makes it very interesting. And this is what is going to be a continual theme post the hackathon as well. The number three is using open data available on the UAE official open data portal, which is bayanat.ae, as a tool. Participants are encouraged to come up with innovative solutions. This is optional. You can go to bayanat.ae and use the open data portal as a tool. Now, this is again optional for students who are and startups who are working on big data and data associated projects. And the reason why this year data happiness and data in general is one of the focus is because, as they say, data is the new oil. Yeah. So the countries that have the most relevant, the most largest, and the most authentic data are most likely to thrive and be ahead of other nations. And which is why, from the leadership, there has been a lot of importance on cultivating a culture of understanding data, implementing data, and also deriving data, and the technologies that support implementation of data like coding and so on and so forth. A very interesting development that I'd like to share with you, and which probably many of you already know, is just a couple of days back, UAE was ranked #1 in the Global Entrepreneurship Index 2022, which was announced at the Expo 2020 Dubai. This prestigious achievement can be attributed to the unconditional support and the forward-looking vision of UAE's wise leadership. As we mentioned earlier, this is one of the many interesting developments that encourage young entrepreneurs and innovators like you in the UAE. And here specifically, by UAE being ranked #1 in the Global Entrepreneurship Index, we are all very lucky and very blessed to be in a country that is ranked #1 and be part of such UAE hackathon initiatives that add value to this ranking, the numero uno ranking of UAE in the Global Entrepreneurship Index. So here are some statistics of the UAE hackathon that are very interesting. There are about 2,610 data sets. Each data set has its own set of data in terms of numbers. So 2,610 is a huge number of data sets, which has been accumulated ever since the first hackathon. We have 146 partners for the execution of the UAE hackathon.
YouTube microphone.
Yeah. I'm sorry, just give me 1 minute.
Just speak up.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Okay. So, looks like all this while I've not been looking at you. Sorry about that. So we have 146 partners for the UAE hackathon, and many of these are reputed government entities and corporate entities that have big names and brands on their own. In total, we have 21 hackathons that were conducted over a series of years. Oh, it's not sharing. Oh, you've unmuted. Okay. Yes. So 21 hackathons, 1,094 teams have participated in the UAE hackathon since its inception. So that's a huge number, a very inspiring number. And then we have 373 ideas that were shared or that evolved during the hackathon, 144 judges across various sectors and industries, 297 mentors across various sectors and industries, 8,556 contestants, and 848 volunteers. So that's a lot of numbers. And this again proves the fact that when we say that the UAE hackathon is the region's largest, these numbers prove it. And again, that's something that you can be proud of. The main pillars of the UAE hackathon is starting with the UAE Centennial 2071 vision. It's this, for those of you who know and those of you who don't know, it would be interesting that the UAE Centennial Vision 2071 is interesting because the birth of UAE was in 1971, and in 2071 UAE would be completing 100 years. So this is your chance to be a part of a century of a glorious nation like UAE's development. So what we're doing is in line with the UAE Centennial 2071 vision. We are also aligning with the UAE Innovates initiative by the UAE government, again, which enhances competencies along with disseminating knowledge and innovation in the field of data analysis to develop solutions and make decisions. So UAE Innovates is another interesting initiative that you can look up on Google. So now these initiatives that we are sharing, it's upon you to search about, for example, and search and learn more about the UAE Centennial Vision 2071, UAE Innovates. These are things that there's enough and more information online for you to read about. We are also structuring or basing the UAE Hackathon on the 4 Ps, uh, which is, to promote the spirit of integration and collective action between the federal, local government, national programs, private sector, and international organizations. So the 4 Ps are people, public sector, private sector, and partnerships. So these are the 4 Ps. And when these different ecosystems, public, private, people, and partners, when they all come together holistically, the ecosystem is developed, and which give rise to more globally pioneering entrepreneurs and innovators. The objectives of the UAE Hackathon is very important for you to understand, so that once you understand the objectives, you will align your idea accordingly. The first objective is to explore flexible, adaptable, and advanced solutions in order to face the rapid evolving change in the tools of modern technology. You may all agree that what was technology for us, advanced technology for us 10 years back, is outdated technology today, right? So technology is fast adapting. So we need to build solutions, we need to build startups, we need to build ourselves in a manner that we are flexible, we are agile, we're able to adapt new technologies and new developments in technologies. So if you need to evolve as a startup, and if you are building a startup, if you are building a product, if you are working on a college project or university project, then make sure that your project or your startup has flexibility in the long term. It can pivot, it can change shape, not drastically if needed, but it should be changing shape in line with the evolving technology around it. So that's why future foresight is very important when you're building a startup, especially a tech startup, so that you don't get lost out when a certain technology gets outdated and you're not preferred for that, prepared for that. Yeah. So number two objective of the hackathon, the first, like I said, is to prepare you to be more flexible and be prepared for the more technologically advanced future. Number two is to engage and make partnerships with the private sector to support and achieve national development goals through the hackathon, through the UAE hackathon. So this is one of the crux of the UAE hackathon, is to connect the public and the private sector, especially with academia. So you would see nowadays you have Google working with universities, Amazon working with universities, Tesla, for example, working with university students. So we need a lot of private sector partnerships with public and academia, which is bringing about a lot of changes, a lot of developments. And this is one of the goals of the UAE Hackathon, to make these partnerships happen, so that students, while they study, when they start interacting with private sector, they are much more prepared when they graduate. Number three is continue spreading knowledge and innovation, envision the future of data, and contribute to enhance the competencies of the youth. This is related to the two earlier points. We want to continue spreading knowledge and innovation. UAE developed because it never, and is fast developing still, is because it never stopped investing in knowledge and innovation. This is a nation of innovation. This is a nation of knowledge. So what built this nation was education, knowledge, and innovation. And what's going to build this further is education, knowledge, and innovation, now driven by youngsters like you. So in line with that, we also need to envision the future of data. This is again what we're going to help make you do. As I mentioned earlier, data is the new oil. The countries, the nations that have the most large, accurate, and authentic data are going to be far ahead, because data is what drives decisions, is how people design products, is how people design services. So based on understanding of people's needs during using that data. So we will be discussing a bit more about data in interactive session in a while, because I also want to understand your understanding of data and answer some of your questions with regards to why big data is a big deal, for example. And the last objective is help and transform the winners' ideas into projects by bringing them together, provided with necessary support to work on their ideas, and have real startups that raise the quality of life through the products to support the UAE economy. And this is the most important objectives of it all. It supports and it culminates all these objectives that I mentioned earlier into the main objective, which is we want to transform your ideas, or help you transform your ideas into real life projects, into real life startups. We, in a sense, want to create the next generation of Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates from you, from the youth ecosystem. And how many of you have that vision, and how many of you have that confidence, or you dream to build companies or to become inspiring pioneers like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and so on and so forth? How many have that dream? You can raise your hands up, or you can just say, I do. Nobody wants to become a cool, inspiring pioneer? Okay. Oh, that's average. Okay. Good. So moving on. Now that we've covered the objectives, we move on to the UAE Hackathon 2022 journey. So this is what we're going to be taking you through, and this is what you're going to be doing until the first week of March. What's happening now, what you're undergoing is the introductory workshop with government entities, universities. This itself is an introductory workshop. Then we will also have introductory sessions about the virtual hackathon with entities. We'll have online training and mentorship programs. This is one, for example. And then on the 18th of February is where you will be submitting your presentation. And this will be the final date of submitting. So those of you who've already joined, you can take note and tell your friends that the deadline is 18th of February. So the pitching days, the final days, the most important days for pitching would be between 21st, 24th of February. We will have one day dedicated for one category, starting with school students, university students, and the startups. So each age category will have its own day to pitch, which will be very fair, and you will have your individual platform to pitch alongside those who are in your realm, in your age group. So, and then on the 27th and 28th of Feb, we will announce the top winners, and those winners will be facilitated on the 7th of March, where we will have the final ceremony awarding winners from each track. So all the best. And I hope that from the 14, 15 participants that we have here today, we have at least two or three going on to becoming winners on the day. So as mentioned to you earlier, we have three tracks for the UAE Hackathon. One for school students between 11 to 18 who haven't enrolled in university yet. Second is for university students who are between 18 to 25 or slightly older, who don't have a long-term work experience yet. So we're looking at university students and fresh graduates, basically. Number three is entrepreneurs, startups, and experts in the startup entrepreneurship domain. This segment has to have specific experience in a field, in a specific field or startup in the launching stage. So we're looking at startups who are in its advanced stage, who are ready to launch, who have everything ready. We're not really looking at idea stage startups, because that is where the students come in. As far as this third section is concerned, the third category, this is for startups whose idea is ready to launch. At least you should have a minimal viable product, which is an MVP. Each track will have a different judging committee, by the way, which will be designed as per each category. The main themes are driven from the UAE Centennial 2071 vision, with technology that intersects to all address themes and challenges. Each theme, by the way, will contain a number of challenges which participants will propose a solution idea first for, and second, usage of that technology. So I'm going to explain again. So you will be going through different themes where I'm going to taking you through, and you will have to structure your idea based on this theme. So what are the themes? So we have seven different and interesting themes for this year, which is an upgrade from the previous hackathons. The seven themes are: number one, agile and proactive digital government. The meaning of this is coming up with services and solutions or ideas where digital transactions, digital services in the government can be agile in the sense it can be flexible, it can pivot as the technology improves, right? So building agile and proactive digital government solutions. Again, agile and proactive means your technology solution, your idea should have the ability to be flexible. It has to have the ability to predict, to be proactive, considering what would happen in the technology field 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 50 years down the line, and use that kind of a technology for government services. Number two is better financial services using fintech. So fintech, as some of you may know, is financial technology. How can you use technology to improve financial services? So that is the field of fintech, and fintech is one of the world's fastest growing startup and technology and business genres. So for those of you who are studying accounts or studying finance, this is a great field for you. And those also who are not studying can also be a part of the fintech ecosystem, provided you have knowledge, a little bit of knowledge of finance basics at least, and technology. So we're going to be focusing on the theme here of build better financial services using fintech. Number three is resilience, digital economy, and investment. Um, the digital economy is what the majority of the economy here is today. And the economy that depends on transactions online is the digital economy. For those of you who purchase through Noon and Amazon, you are an important part of the digital economy, right? Because e-commerce and e-payments drive the digital economy, and that is one aspect of the digital economy. So what we're trying to do through this theme is to build a resilient digital economy, in the sense digital assets, the digital economy and digital platforms are vulnerable to certain threats. One of them is, for example, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not a threat, it's a technology that prevents the threat, but we're talking about breach of cybersecurity, we're talking about breach of security online, hackers, and so on and so forth. So how do we build a resilient digital infrastructure and economy so that the investments, the processes, the effort is safeguarded? Ethical hacking or cybersecurity is one such example of building a resilience digital economy. Then we have shaping smart, sustainable cities. Dubai itself is an example of a very successful smart city, where you use technology to minimize your transactions and enhance your transaction also. Um, an example of a smart city technology is getting an Uber by just using your phone. It's one of the most basic examples. And plus, when you go to any Dubai government office, for example, now everything is turned paperless. You don't need to use paper. Everything is done online, and sometimes with a tap of a phone. And when you go to events, sometimes you don't need to print a badge. You can just scan the QR code and your badge comes on the phone. So these are smart city solutions, and these are some of the basic smart city solutions. There are more advanced smart city solutions where IoT is involved, where devices, even buildings, speak to other devices, and so on and so forth, using technology. So how can we shape Dubai as a further enhanced smart city is what this theme is about. Then we have innovative, world-class knowledge and skills. So this comes more from the innovation in the education and knowledge domain. So how can you utilize innovation to improve education, the quality of education, for example, the quality of knowledge dissipation? How can you use innovation and technology to make learning more interesting? So this is what the theme is about. The sixth theme is happy and cohesive technology. So if you have a technology idea or startup idea that can contribute to a happy and cohesive society, we would love to hear it. How can your technology contribute and create a more happy and cohesive society? The last theme is communication in the digital age. Everybody's communicating these days digitally. I am communicating to you now digitally. You're probably sitting miles away from me, but you can hear me, you can see me clearly, and I'm able to convey to you clearly. But this is an example of communication in the digital age, where you can communicate with people who are hundreds of thousands of miles away, from different countries, from different cultures, through video, through chat, through messages, through emails, and so on and so forth. So how do you enhance that communication in the digital age, is what this theme is about. And to support these themes, we encourage you to use these 8 technologies, starting with Internet of Things, big data and analytics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, metaverse, augmented reality, 3D, 4D printing, and other trending technologies. So we don't want to block you in with these 7 technologies, but you have related technologies that are trending. You can use those technologies to implement your ideas in these 7 themes. So I'm going to explain it to you again for those of you who find it confusing. So you have these 7 themes. To implement your startup idea in these 7 themes, you need to use one of these technologies or something related. Yes. So for example, you say you have an idea in the fintech space. So and you wanna do something in the fintech, or you want to participate in the fintech theme, then your fintech idea should be supported by one of these technologies mentioned on screen. Before we move ahead, are there any questions here, specifically with regards to, maybe some of you don't understand what is IoT, Internet of Things, big data? Any questions at this stage, you can please ask me now. If you have questions, you can share it in the chat. All good. Oh, I'm just reading Yamin's a very interesting comment. More like the man who built Instagram and sold it off in millions. That's a very interesting comment. If you can clarify, Yamin, this comment with regards to what statement of mine? It's a very interesting comment. If you can clarify. So while her reply comes, I think she was referring to when I was. Oh, okay. So this was quite before. So when we were speaking about who of you wants to be like a Elon Musk or Bill Gates, I think Yamin is the only person who wants to be a inspiring pioneer like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and the founder of Instagram, who, right, Yamin rightly said, sold it off for not millions, billions. He sold Instagram for billions of dollars to Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, which is now Meta. So this is the power of believing in yourself, believing in your product, and not giving up. So, by the way, Instagram, when Instagram was built, it was built by a very small team who were relatively unknown. But and that proves that even if you're a small team, even if you have a small idea, it can be worth millions or not, if not billions. So that's that. So thank you for that interesting point, Yamin. So before we move on, do you have any questions with regards to um, any of these themes or any of these technologies? If not, we will move ahead. Um, so I have already explained to you in brief about each of these themes. I'm going to quickly run by through again. The agile and proactive digital government aims to be the first digital government regionally, right? Which is already in implementation. Like I said, Dubai is already a UAE paperless city. So that's about agile and proactive digital government. Financial technology, as I already mentioned to you, is a key component in the evolution of financial services industries. According to forecasts for 2024, the total revenue of the global fintech sector will go to $214 billion. That's the size of the fintech sector by 2024, which is just in 2 years from now. Um, then coming to the digital economy, I've already spoken to you about the digital economy and how do you build a resilient digital economy by creating infrastructure that is foolproof, that is guarded by hacks and other security threats. Um, Sustainable smart city is again something I told you. A smart sustainable city is an innovative city that uses information and communication technologies, ICTs, and other means to improve the quality of life. And the UAE has led and is leading the way in this domain. Um, when we speak about innovative world-class knowledge and skills, again, this is backed and in line with the UAE Centennial 2071 vision. The happy and cohesive society, again, like I told you, is all about improving the overall quality of life, happiness, positivity, and so on and so forth, using technology, using your ideas, and making UAE the best place to live in eventually. And lastly, communication in the digital age. The UAE Hackathon seeks to find solutions from you to better communication technologies. The top 30 technologies that could change your life in the next decade is something that we will upload in the YouTube channel. Which YouTube channel and those details will be shared with you via email. Okay, now coming to the main, and we're coming to the end of the presentation, so you can be relieved. Here is the evaluation criteria. So those of you wondering, okay, I'm going to apply for the hackathon and I want to win. So how am I going to be evaluated? How do I prepare myself? So the answer to that question is, these are the evaluation criteria in front of you. First is your utilization of data is what you're going to be scored on. So how much of data are you going to utilize? How are you going to implement the data? And how are you going to use the data for happiness? When you speak about data for happiness, when you get authentic data, that data actually gives you happiness. For example, Google Maps, many of you use Google Maps, right, to reach a particular destination. So Google Maps is based on a complex and a large number of data sets, which point you to the right direction. So you are using Google's data to arrive at a location. Maybe you're arriving at somebody's birthday party. Maybe you're arriving at some other interesting occasion. So what enables this is Google's Google Maps technology, which is backed by the data they have collected about your particular region and the areas around you or where you want to arrive. So when you arrive at a location, you're happy, right? When you want to arrive at a meeting or an occasion, you're happy at the end of the day. And similarly, and you're happy mainly because you've accomplished what you want to accomplish. You wanted to reach from point A to point B and you've accomplished it. So this is where data happiness comes in, utilizing data to make people achieve what they want to achieve, and that eventually brings in happiness. So we're going to see how you're going to be utilizing data. That's number one. Number two is the solution quality and usability. This is a very important point while building a startup. How are you going to be utilizing your startup idea in a manner where your startup idea or a service has quality in it? For those of you who are consumers, whether you buy a mobile phone or a laptop, quality is something that you always look into, right? So your own product that you build has to be quality focused and has to be of the top-notch quality, and it has to be usable. So UI UX is called user interface, user experience. Every mobile application you use or a website that you visit has a team working on the UI UX, which is the user interface. How does the user scroll down when he's looking at an app or looking at a website? How easy is it for him to navigate in and out of the app? That is what usability is about. So you need to build your product where your customer would find it very easy and not confusing. And moving on, the next is innovation and creativity. How innovative is your idea? How creative is this idea? How out of the box have you thought is what you will be assessed on. The most interesting ideas today are the ones that were never thought of before, or probably were thought of before but not implemented like how it's been implemented today, right? I think one of the best examples is food delivery, something that we can all relate to. 10 years back, we could never order food with an app. We have to go to the restaurant or call the restaurant and ask them if they can deliver. And now within 15 minutes, you can get your food at your doorstep across various restaurants with great discounts. So this is an example of innovation and creativity in food, mobility, and logistics. Next is technology usage and maturity. How much of technology is embedded or enabled in your startup is what you're going to be evaluated on, and how mature is that technology that you're implementing. And the last thing and the most important thing that is given the highest marks is benefits and impact. At the end of the day, what's the impact of the startup and your idea? Priority will be given to those teams that demonstrate real solutions with a valuable impact. We don't want to build a startup that's going to become another billionaire startup without impacting the society, impacting the nation, impacting people around them in a positive manner. So you need to build solutions that have a positive impact, that makes people's life easier, better, and saves the environment, contributes to the environment. So these are the kind of ideas that have good sustainable benefits and impact that are gonna you're gonna be rewarded for. So make sure that your idea has a sustainable benefits and impact factor, and you mentioned this in a separate slide in your presentation, saying that this is how my idea is going to impact, is going to positively impact and benefit the society, the nation, and make life better overall. So please mention that in your presentation. So for school students, the primary outcome is to come up with refined ideas as a mock-up to communicate those ideas by presenting and demonstrating them. So it's about coming up with a presentation. For school students, we're going easy on to school students. All you need to do is come up with an idea, but it has to be viable. It has to be practical. It should not be too dreamy, right? So come up with a good presentation that covers these points that I just mentioned. You need not necessarily create a product, but you need to create a roadmap to create the product. You need to create a presentation that will help you create the product in the future. And the presentation has to be unique, it has to be innovative, it has to be practical. For university students, the primary outcome is to come up with advanced solutions, communicate them by presenting and demonstrating them to the judge panel. We expect students to have a low fidelity prototype. So for university students, apart from a well-designed and when-created presentation, which again showcases innovation, USP, and practicality, and uh, benefits and impact, apart from creating a presentation like that, you also would be required to create some kind of a prototype. It could be a low-level prototype, an entry-level prototype. If you're creating a mobile application, you can just show us the landing page, create a landing page of the website, or just mock-ups of the app, a mobile application, page 1, page 2, features. Visualize your idea beyond the presentation. And if you're able to actually create a product that works on a very basic level, that would be perfect. So, and the last thing is, when it comes to startups and entrepreneurs, the bar is set higher because you're much more experienced. The primary outcome is to find advanced solutions, communicate them by presenting and demonstrating them on the track demo day, as we expect participants to have a high fidelity prototype. For startups, you need to have a high fidelity prototype, not a low fidelity prototype like university students. A high fidelity prototype means it's implementable, it's ready to launch, it's already working, right? This helps participants build or grow their own startups through finding investments and new resources. If you as a startup come up with a ready-made product, or a product that's ready to launch, with everything ready, with a minimum viable product, with high fidelity, there are more chances that you'll win, and not only win, but also find investors, because investors want to invest in ideas that have a product that's ready. They want to invest in products that are ready to launch. Now, coming to the interesting part, for those of you who want to win, we have prizes worth 276,000 dirhams at stake. So starting with a school's track, the first prize for the school students will be 15,000 dirhams. The second prize is 10,000 dirhams. The third prize is 5,000 dirhams. And the good thing is, from 4th to 10th place, everybody gets 3,000 dirhams. So the top 10 winners, everybody gets a interesting cash prize. For university, it increases. It starts with 25,000 dirhams for the first prize, 15,000 dirhams for the second prize, 10,000 for the third prize, and then 3,000 for between 4 to 10th places. The startup track starts with 50,000 dirhams, 30,000 dirhams, 20,000 dirhams, and 10,000 dirhams from 4th to 10th place. So as you can see, that's a lot of money. And the UAE Hackathon team has consciously designed the prize distribution in such a manner so that every idea is benefited. We don't want to stop with 3 winners. We want to encourage every idea out there. This is one of the reasons why the UAE Hackathon is so unique. Everybody is almost a winner, and we don't want to keep the winners pool very low, but rather we want to have a huge set of winners. So as you can see, in total, we will have 10 winners from each category. So that means 30 winners in all will be sharing 276,000 dirhams between them. 30 winners, that's a lot, because from these 30, a good number of them will go on to become a very successful startup idea, an entrepreneur, or a unicorn in the coming years. And this is the last slide. So there are 2 directions, the way forward from the hackathon. Number 1 is the hackathon wallet. The hackathon wallet is where this platform will include all inspiring ideas, innovative projects of the UAE Hackathon up to date, and it will also state the progress of the startup. So you join in as a startup, right? What happens next year? So we're going to be tracking your progress and mentioning that in the wallet. And we're going to be monitoring your progress and supporting you in your progress. And this progress will be shared with government entities and incubation centers to benefit from the list of these innovative ideas. So these ideas, the reason it's called a wallet is because your ideas are very important. Like how you keep only important things in your wallet, the hackathon wallet will only keep important ideas, the important and the most innovative startup ideas. So it will be an open forum that people can look into, and anytime they can look into the hackathon wallet or the hackathon website, they can have a look at the ideas, and if they like your, anytime during the year, they can reach out to you for your idea and ask you for your support, or support your idea or invest in your idea, and so on and so forth. So then second thing is contracts with incubators. This again is new for this year, and this is going to be a game-changing initiative for the UAE Hackathon. The TDRA Hackathon management will align with incubation centers specialized in supporting technical ideas owners to support hackathon winners, especially startup winners. An agreement with the center can define terms and conditions to work on. So what's going to happen here is, after the hackathon, we're going to handhold you and then connect you to a startup incubator who can work with you for the years to come to develop your idea. So it's not going to be finished with the hackathon. The hackathon is a starting point, after which, through our associations with incubators, we're going to support you for many other years to come until you become successful and beyond. With that, I thank you. That's my presentation for the UAE Hackathon. I hope the presentation was clear. I tried my best to convey everything to you in the shortest time possible without leaving any important details in between. I wish all of you the very best moving forward. Every year, the UAE Hackathon team has seen amazing ideas develop from an idea to a prototype to an actual startup. So we hope and we wish that you will be one of those stars of this year who goes on to become the next Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, as I mentioned earlier. So with that, comes to the end of my presentation. And I will now open the floor for questions and answers. Okay, so good. So we already have some questions coming in. These questions, you can ask me questions with related to the presentation itself. If you want me to go back to certain slide or certain topic of the presentation you didn't understand, or you wanted more clarity of questions about the UAE Hackathon itself, we can take questions on that. Number two, we can take general questions on entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, and even you can share your ideas and we can brainstorm about it. So there's no audio, right? They can't speak, the students. They can speak? Yeah. So for those of you who want to speak, we can give you the option to speak as well. I think you need to let me know if you want to speak. Just raise your hands and just say, I want to speak, and we can unmute you. For those of you who don't like communicating via chat, I would rather listen and hear your interesting voices. So yeah, on the chat, if you want to speak, please let me know. Let me know that you want to just type, I want to speak. Okay. Yasser says, I have a vision to be one of the biggest strategic planners in the area. Wow, that's very nice. Congratulations, Yasser, because what you have shared is very specific, and a strategic planner um, is a very important contributor to the development of a city. But may I know, Yasser, when you say you want to be the best strategic planner, what do you mean? Because um, there are strategic planners in business, there are strategic planners in government, there are strategic planners in architecture, infrastructure, city development. So you need to let me know, Yasser, what field you want to be a strategic planner in. And like I said, strategic planners are the ones who build cities, ideas, government services, and businesses, and a lot more, because they strategize based on the future, they strategize based on what's available in the present, they strategize based on the data sets available, they strategize based on the needs of the people, the wants of the people, and based on the laws of the nation and the country that they stay in. Muhammad Nihal asks, so Yasir, you can let me know what do you mean by strategic planning in which area? Moving on to Muhammad Nihal, what if you choose a theme like shaping smart city and then we don't have our idea as a challenge. So then can we only choose the given challenges? Yes. So if you have a particular theme or particular idea that's not in one of those themes, then you have to pick a theme that is closest. So for example, if you're picking a smart city, then whichever available theme on the website is closest to your idea, you need to choose that. You can't come up with a customized challenge on your own. So this is something I just want to shed more light on. So you have the themes, the 7 themes that I mentioned, and each theme will be given a specific challenge. Like for example, smart cities, like Nihal mentioned, under smart cities, you will have 2 or 3 challenges. Then you need to choose, right? So you need to choose the challenge that is closest to your area of passion or skill. Those challenges were not mentioned in my presentation. You need to go to the website. If you've registered, then you will have access to the specific challenge under each theme. So, Kish, each theme has 2 or 3 challenges. Okay, it's on the website, right? So you need to go to the website because in my presentation I did not share the challenges under each theme, right? For example, the theme of smart cities solutions, right? So if you go to the website under smart city solutions, you will see the different challenges, and you need to choose the challenge that is closest to you, that you are more passionate about. Um, so our answer to your question is, Nihal, if a specific idea that you have in mind is not related to a particular challenge, then you have to tweak your idea to one of the challenges that are available, or choose a challenge that is more interesting to you and you can find solutions to. So I hope I answered the question, Nihal. You can let me know if you need more clarity. Sultan Al Hassaneh asked me, where can we find information about the submission requirements? This is a question for the hackathon team. Sultan asks, where can we find information about submission requirements? Okay. So when you go to submit your idea, there is a submission form. When you complete that process, that is where you find your requirement. You need to complete the entire registration and submission process. Um, you they can submit as PPT. Yeah? They can submit in PPT format. Yes. So answer to Yamin's question, yes. Yes. PDF and PPT are the preferred formats of submission. So yes, you can submit in the PPT format. So yeah, so Sultan, yeah, you mean for the final submission? Yes, when you go through that process, you will see the requirements listed there. So that's that. So I hope I've answered most of your questions. I've answered all of your questions, rather. So is there anything that you want to discuss? Okay, Muhammad Nihal asked, I have 4 individuals with me. How do I make all these people into a team and get the team registered? The question Nihal asks, he has 4 individuals in his team. So how does he make all of these people into a team and get the team registered? I'm getting your answer. Just 1 minute. Come again? Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the hackathon platform, so I'm answering Muhammad Nihal's question, is designed in a manner where you as the team leader, when you create an account, once your account is created, then there's an option where you can add team members and you can invite those team members via email. So once you do that, those team members will also be a part of the hackathon team. Yeah. So but first you need to create your own account, and then as a team leader you can invite more people. And is there any way that they can, if they had more doubts, more questions, where how do they contact you? Admin hackathon email. Okay. Which is admin@hackathon.de. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the so for further questions, I'm going to share with you in the chat the website, sorry, the email ID that you need to write to if you have more questions after the session. Maybe after the session you remembered something and you want to ask a question. So it's admin@hackathon.de. Okay, so I've kindly everyone. Okay, I've shared the email ID with everybody for you to ask follow-up questions with regards to the session. And with that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, everyone. All the best, and we look forward to your participation and your winning at the event. Have a nice day. Goodbye.